Let's go. Welcome to Tactical Tuesday, everybody.
Hello, Fearless. I'm standing on my very tippy of toes that I can't possibly be. Oh, that's a little better. Okay. Hey, so we are on a field trip today. We are at a property that we're gonna just kind of run you through, show you a little bit about it. We're gonna show you how the numbers have worked out on it over the last
We've owned this for 17 years. We bought this in August 2005. So we've been looking at the numbers all day today, just kind of number crunching, seeing what it's like. How have we done on it? What kind of money did we make on it? You know, originally, originally when we looked at it, we were like, this hasn't been a very good property for us. But when we started to dive a little deeper into the numbers and see really where we've made the money on this property, then hey, it's actually doing not too bad.
You're so funny. Yeah, over the years, you know, your emotion gets involved, and so you start to really like think that, you know, oh, is this property been worth it? And oh, you know, I mean, we're talking about, we're in a down market. We're in a market where the value of this property has dropped significantly in the last few years. We're also in a market where rents have dropped. So does it still make sense? You know, did we still do good? So for the first little bit, we're going to show you around a little bit, show you some of the advertising that we did for this property and the difference that it makes as well. We're going to then go inside and we're going to show you some of the numbers and how those all worked out. So welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome. All right. We can't see the chat then?
We can't see the chat on here at the same time, though. Okay. But I can tell that people are chatting because I can see the number going up and up.
Okay, good. Okay. So say hi, guys, when you do come on. That always makes us, when we do see everyone here, makes us feel like we're not talking to ourselves, which is always nice. So yeah, hey, let's take a little tour.
Okay, so what we're going to do is start off with, oops, wrong button. We're going to start off by looking at some of the things that Tiff has done as far as advertising this property, okay? So here we go. I'm going to turn the camera around and let's, where do you want to start, Tiff?
Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is the location. So, you know, lots of people ask us questions about, you know, do you buy a property, you know, for location? Can I buy a, you know, not so great property, but in a great location? Or do I do the opposite? Do I look in a not so great location, but buy the best property there? And by far, our answer is that you go for location. Now, we all know that location, right? But why? Here's why. Here's a perfect example of why. Now, we are in an area right now that is highly sought after. Do we have the nicest unit here? No. Is it the nicest unit in the area? No. Does it rent immediately for a showing every time? Yes. Do we get above average rents for the area? Yes. Why? We're going to show you why. So here's a couple of things. So if you have your notepad out, this is your first thing to write down. Is in your advertising, we talk all the time about tenant profile. Who do you have as your tenant profile? And then you're going to really focus your advertising toward them. So for this unit, and you're going to see why in a second. Actually, you can just turn around real quick and show.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. Hey. This unit here, it's a ground floor unit. There's no stairs. Now, let's think. There's no stairs inside. It's all on one floor. It's about 1,100 square feet.
So our unit, just to explain for people, there's another person that goes upstairs and they have that whole floor upstairs. Okay. And then our unit is the ground floor level. So this is the living room. That's one of the bedrooms. And then there's another bedroom farther on you can't see on the other side of the stairs with a window. So It's a one floor unit.
So no stairs to get in, flat access to it, and then no stairs inside. Who does that sound like, guys? Put it in the comments for me. Who does that sound like would be an ideal tenant for you? Let's see who gets the answer right. Now you can look at the chat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I'm sure they will. Okay, so now once we have our ideal tenant in mind.
Seniors, Joan says.
Seniors, there we go, Joan. You got it.
55 plus, Urshad says.
Perfect. So guess what? That's not who we pictured as when we first started out. Again, 17 years we've had this property. That's not who we pictured in here. I pictured like this young professional couple.
Seniors, me, retired.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't picture it that way, and we didn't do our advertising toward it that way. Well, guess what? We've changed that over the last few years. We've learned that you advertise to your tenant demographic. And so you choose your tenant demographic, hopefully before you purchase the place. But in this case, we had to choose it after because we'd already bought it. And we realized it's not the young professionals. It is a senior, and or it could also be, I'll show you our next demographic, who again, we focused our advertising toward.
Adrienne says mums with strollers.
Moms with strollers, seriously.
Or young family with easy access to a yard.
So there's no yard. So
no fenced in yard.
There's
yeah,
no fenced yard.
exactly.
Yeah. This is the yard right here. So yeah, not necessarily young families for that reason, not necessarily someone with a pet for that reason, but certainly seniors, right? So here's our ads. Here's what our ads say. Two different ads that we have going for this place. One is directed towards seniors, and often we'll talk to even their kids. So say, you know, do your parents need a safe place to call home? You know, looking to move into, you know, no stairs, you know, we'll talk to their kids. But that's one of the ads that we have going is to seniors. So guess who's moving in here? Now we held the place. It was actually became vacant on April 25th. As you know or may not know, we do our leases from the 25th of the month to the 25th of the month, not the 1st to the 1st. Good reason for that. But we had it rented from April 25th. We've held it just for 2 more days, where we're going to have a lovely, beautiful senior lady move in. And yeah, she loves it. She's going to love it even more. I'll show you a little bit though about our second tenant demographic that we did advertise to. And we did get lots of phone calls from, interestingly. I didn't tell you this, but her daughter called me on the one, I believe on the one, and she called me on the other. And her daughter was attracted by this right here.
Let's have a look. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. I'm trying to get this thing to work here. There we go. I can't work the camera. Okay, Tiffany, there you are. You need to wave. The camera will follow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So guys, this is the number 2 attraction. So this is our second tenant demographic, and that is an active lifestyler. And so that's specifically who we advertise to for this property. It's not about the property. It's about the neighborhood. Now this is a dead end street. If you take a peek way at the end of the street there where those cars are going, the only people who will come down here are the people. So that's great.
Right across the street is a ravine. There's tons of walking trails, hiking trails, biking trails, all that kind of stuff down there.
Access to it is right through those trees.
And
literally right there.
You know what's been cool is for the last 17 years that we've owned this, one of the pictures that Tiff has always put near the front or the front picture is a picture of the sunset that comes right down here, a nice red sky, and that has attracted a lot of interest as well.
So guys, number 1 point is your tenant demographic. Okay, you're going to choose that. Secondly, you're going to focus your advertising toward that tenant demographic. It's so important, and you get exactly who you're looking for because it weeds out everyone else. In fact, our ads always say, if you're a partier and you know it, please apply elsewhere because noise complaints will not be tolerated. So it weeds out people just in our wording as well. Let's go inside where our puppy is having a little conniption.
He's not used to being left by himself, is he? Yeah. All right. Okay, let's go inside, guys. There's a couple more tips Tiff's going to share with you, and then we're going to finish this off, guys. We're not close to done yet, but we're going to be talking about some of the numbers on this property. How has it performed over the last 17 years that we've owned it?
This is in a flat.
So get your numbers and your pencils and paper and calculators ready.
This is in a flat market, and then a down market, and then a flat market. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not in a market. Actually, sorry, I shouldn't say that. When we first bought it, it went up, then it flattened, then it went down, and then it's flattened, and it has been flat. how did the numbers work out? Is it still a win for us?
So before we go in, can I tell a little horror story with this property? Okay, so one of the horror stories, guys, let's go over to this door here. Guess what's in this door? This is considered a coach home, carriage home. What's in this door is the furnace and the hot water tank. And guys, the hot water tank, think of this. This is outside. If the wind, twice this has happened where the wind blew this door open in the middle of the winter when it's minus 30, 40, 50.
So here's the thing, is by the bylaws of the condo board, again, we don't have a say in this. They say leave this unlocked at all times so that they have access. Why? Because the upper unit also gets their hot water from here. These are their pipes, not ours. Okay, so look at what a headache this is. The 2 meters for the 2 units. Look at what a headache this is to fix. Now add minus 50.
Yeah, try getting a hot water tank in there, guys. That's not easy. But we've had it twice where these pipes have frozen. Yeah. The neighbor upstairs doesn't have water. Our unit doesn't have water. The furnace gets shut off and it's just trying to blare for the first while. So what's the point? We've had a few horror stories with this property as well, where in the middle of winter, I think one was during Christmas break, here we are running out here trying to deal with frozen pipes.
And you try to get somebody that is willing to work outside, like, a HVAC guy outside in the winter, and they have to get rid of all of this piping first, put in a new hot water tank or fix the furnace, whatever, put all the piping back. Good luck. It's terrible. However, it's the wind. This what would happen is the wind would blow this open because we were required by our bylaws to leave it unlocked. The wind would blow it open and then it would blow out the pilot light, and then it would freeze during the night or whatever. Our tenants wouldn't notice it, neither would they. And it was just a massive headache. So has it been smooth sailing? No.
These are the things to deal with, guys.
When we get those numbers to you here, you're going to see that it has definitely been working.
Well, maybe.
Oh, sorry.
I think you are.
Okay, guys. So again, let's talk about location. This is not a fancy unit. This is a nice unit. It's clean. It's well taken care of, but it is not fancy. It's actually quite outdated. We've got oak floors. They're hardwood though, so we're leaving them. And we've got a sunshine kitchen for those of you in the 90s that remember those. Come on in and see. Come take a look. Oh shoot, I forgot to show. I have to show this. Sorry, back up. Okay, this right here. Right here, guys. You're gonna hear me always whining about this or whatever, because here, you guys, this saves you so much time and effort. It's $40, Home Depot, or delivered to your door on Amazon now. It's a lockbox. Put it on there. Make sure that you put one as soon as you get a vacant property. If you have any relocation agents or realtors that want to show your place, just tell them the lockbox code and they can go do it. If you have carpet cleaners that need to get in, contractors, whatever, you're not running around your whole entire life meeting them anywhere. You just give them the lockbox code.
Who here uses a lockbox? Just throw it in the chat. I do, or hey, good idea. I need to start.
I'd better be saying yes, because I'm sure they've heard me harp on this before. So yeah, okay. So that's a first tip. Honestly, it's huge. As soon as you hear that you're going to have a vacancy, what I often do is offer to do a pre-move out inspection if I'm worried. I didn't do that in this case because I wasn't worried about her. I knew she'd have it perfect. But I will offer, I'll come 2 weeks ahead. We'll go through and you can ask me questions. What would be deducted from my security deposit, blah, blah, blah. When I do that, I come and I put a lockbox on that day, and then it's on. Okay. So, this kind of funny, we used to have this painted red, bright red, because our tenant demographic, again, we didn't realize it was wrong, was a young professional couple kind of thing. We didn't realize that's not who was going to rent this place. And now over 17 years, we've learned who wants this place specifically. So now we've gone to making this a little bit different. So we took it from red to just
still a bit of a feature though, yeah, right? Slight different color, yeah.
Here's another thing. This spot here can be really dark, but just a quick pan of the mirrors. Amazing how the mirrors reflect all this light. 3 100-watt bulbs instead of just a normal light fixture.
Nice bright light.
It's not beautiful, but it does make a difference, guys, in when you're showing it feels bright, feels open. Super simple stuff you can do. Okay, there's our beautiful 1990s. at all.
And just a point that this is a side point, guys, that we're seeing a lot of is, people are getting investment properties. No, I'll just talk. Is people are buying investment properties and gutting everything right away and putting all new kitchens, all new appliances, all new floors, all new everything. When you know what, to be honest with you, you can save a lot of money by just getting by with what's there. Just because you buy a property doesn't mean you have to go and gut it and do everything.
Time to do it anyway. We wanted to, but the transition time between when she wanted it and when they were leaving was like 8 days or something. So I was like, I don't know. But she says, oh no, I like the kitchen just how it is. No, I think it's just fine. And I love the countertop, which I don't know if you can see it, but it's an outdated countertop. It's an outdated kitchen. She did say, oh, there was some big cabinets there. That would be nice. But that was it. So don't assume that you have to do all of that stuff. So good point. Okay. Coming?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a quick one here. Numbers. Again, I just want to point out, not fancy. Okay? Please note, it is not fancy. It is not the nicest unit around here. However, it's in an unbelievable location that everybody wants. So it always rents right away. And it's clean. Clean is the big thing. When you do your showings, make sure it's clean. Okay, yeah, just like I showed this. And then, okay, we'll go back.
Okay. No sense in the bathroom.
So 1 bedroom den.
I'll come this way. We got some dog toys on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll meet you on the other camera, guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Oh.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, just did you remove? Oh, okay, perfect.
All right.
Hopefully you guys can hear us okay. It's a little echoey in here, and
all right,
we'll try to do our best. Okay.
So we're going to look at some of these numbers, guys. Now, yeah, let's read through some of these comments. So I haven't seen it much for the comments. So gutting is a virus that lives within us. I know, right, Sam? And sometimes we have to. If it's terrible, then we have to. But you know your tenant demographics so well. So you know what they need and what they want and what you're buying and how it looks and all that stuff. So yeah, guys, we're going to go through some of the numbers on how this works. So 17 years in a market that when we first bought it, it went up like crazy. It was like, oh, we're brilliant, right? Like, man, are we good at investing? Yeah. And then it plateaued. So 2005, we bought it. 2008, it plateaued. Oh, 2005, we bought it. 2008, it plateaued. 2009, 10, 11, 12, it started going down and it continued to go down. So we are now at 2022 and we are not at the value that we were in 2008, interestingly. So does that still work? Does that sound exciting to you guys? Like if you bought a property and you were told that, it wasn't even going to, cash flow very much, you were going to be in a really, really tough market for 17 years. You're going to have this property. Does it seem like it would be a property that you would buy and that seems like it would be worth getting into? Put it in the comments, guys. Thanks, Grant. Nice transition. Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out how to, here we go. I think I've got it set now to share that. Okay, here we go. Sweet. So now we can talk about some of these numbers. And I know Tiff touched on them already, guys, but this is what you look at when we start looking at this property is we bought it in 2005 for $108,000. Today, 17 years later, it's worth $150,000 roughly. So most people will say, wow, that's barely done anything. You've managed that for 17 years. You've dealt with frozen pipes. You've dealt with tenants. You've dealt with all the different things that we've had to deal with. We've had to install hardwood. We've had to come here. I don't know if you noticed, put in a new microwave hood fan. We've had to redo the flooring in the bathroom. We've had to replace the carpets. There's a lot of different things that we've had to do. And I'm going to show you in the numbers how much money we've spent on this property as well. And so when we initially look at these numbers, we're going to say, not a good investment.
And
not
Adrian,
a good choice.
I love how you say, no, I would not buy that property. And, you know, initially when we think about it, like before we even did this exercise, like we crunch our numbers every couple of years. But, you know, at first I would say, has that been a moneymaker for us? No, not really. Well, I'll tell you what, when we actually sit down and do the numbers, every year we look at the mortgage pay down and we're like, yeah, darn it, you know, this is darn good. But watch and see what you're going to see. And Aziz, sorry, this is in Edmonton. So as you may or may not know, Edmonton has been a tough market for the last 14 years. And we have owned this property for 17 of those. So guys,
good points, Mel.
I'm hoping that you still understand and realize that if what we're trying to show you is even if you don't buy right, even if you don't buy perfectly, if you can stay in the market long enough and avoid having to sell, Arlen last week talked about, and avoid having to sell, this is the benefit that can come from it.
Yeah. And so let's look at the numbers a little bit deeper than just the value that it's gone up. Okay. So we saw that it went up, way up in value to 200,000, went back down to 150. But one of the other numbers that's very important when figuring this out is how much cash flow have we accumulated over the last 20 or 17 years of owning this property. So I looked at various years when preparing the numbers for this presentation tonight. And on average, we average about $100 a month. Some months were negative, some years were higher, but on average, it was about $100 a month. So we look at that. That's $1,200 a year times 17 years is around $20,000. Now, I mentioned before we had to spend money on this. We had to change that hot water tank. We had to pay for plumbers. We had to put in hardwood floors. There's things that we've had to do in this unit. And we spent roughly about $10,000 in repairs over that period of time. So really, out of our cash flow of 20 grand, we've spent $10,000 just keeping it afloat, keeping it going.
How does that sound, guys? Not saying that you should buy a property that's not cash flowing. Again, we didn't buy this one completely right. We didn't know how things were and what we should be looking for. So we didn't buy it completely right. But has it turned out for us anyways? Guys, we're trying to get rid of some fear, okay? Again, fearless investors. Why are we fearless? Because we know and understand, we crunch numbers, we crunch markets, we understand what we're getting into. And the reason we do is because of experience. We know what it's going to do a few years in now because we, again, like who said that, Andrea? Jules, hindsight is 2020, for sure it is. So now, if you found a property that was going to cash flow a max of $100 a month for 17 years and even be negative sometimes for years on end, not that that's good. Don't do that.
Over 17 years, only go up $42,000 in value. So now we've seen the $42,000 it went up. We've seen the $10,000 net cash flow that we've received. So we're at what? $52,000. So let's now.
Grant, you're always one freaking step ahead of us, aren't you? Always, always, always. So yeah, we're gonna get to all of that. Exactly, Grant, you got it.
And here we go. Here's the next slide. What am I doing wrong here? There we go. The next slide is we've had that 42,000 of market increase. We've had our mortgage paid down by other people. We've had our mortgage paid down by our tenants, equivalent to about $75,000. So now when you add up these three numbers, it's $127,000 gain over the last, 17 years.
Okay, so now
let's stop for a second here, guys, because there's an important point that I want to share. Is 17 years ago, you didn't have to put 20% down.
Oh, can I just take this off while we do
Sure.
that? Okay.
17 years ago,
This is a good point.
you could put as little as 5% down on an investment property. So in this particular example, when we bought it for $108,000, we had put $8,000 down, and with all our closing costs, everything included, we had $10,000 of our own money into this deal. $10,000. Well, okay, sorry, I missaid that.
Yeah.
We had $10,000 into this deal. Now, 17 years later,
going back to
Okay,
that slide.
So can we continue on that for 1 second?
Yeah.
Guys, the reason that's important is, listen, when it went from investors could put 5% down on investment properties, right? That was the heyday, right? It was amazing. That still seemed like a lot to us, honestly, because the price of this was not considered a cheap price. This was are we going to pay that much for a property? But then when it went to investors now have to put 20% down, it was like, oh, the sky is falling, the world is ending, investing is done forever. What's happening right now, guys, in our world of investing? What are the rumors? What's flying around? 30% down for investment properties. Oh my goodness, the world is ending, right? It's not ending, guys. We as investors will adjust. For those of you that have just come in the last few years, 10 years or more maybe, you're used to 20% down. That's just your normal. You're like, okay, 20% down. For us, that was like, what? How is anyone going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're all still here.
And here's the thing, guys. In the future, maybe 17 years from now, it might be 30% we have to put down. It might be 40% we have to put down. 17 years from now, we could be looking back on today and saying, do you remember the days when we could only put 20% down?
Right.
What's the point? Maybe it'll never change. We can't predict the future. But the point is when at the time, that was, especially for us at the time, that was a lot of money to be putting into a property. And so, today at 20% down, we're thinking that is a lot of money to be putting into a property. But over time, your perspective can change. That's the point that we wanted to make very, very clear. And going back to this slide, you can see that our total gain on a $10,000 investment is actually a 1,270% return. And you divide that over 17 years is an average of 75% ROI per year.
So now let me ask you again, guys. Would you be interested if I could tell you that you'd put down $10,000, you'd work your tail off for 17 years, you'd have some issues, some problems, some emotions, some whatever, but you would make a 75% ROI every year? Now, tell me, are you interested in buying a property like that? And is it the prettiest property out there? No, it's not.
And just wait, guys, it gets better yet.
It gets way better yet. Okay, this is just the beginning. Okay, yeah, I want to see, heck yeah, come on, you guys. 75% ROI on our money. Come on. Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't do that? Yet when we were doing it, it was scary. Mm-hmm. And it was throughout the ups and downs, like the 2005, we bought it, 06, 07, rocking and rolling into even starting, 07, the summer of 07, 08, started going down, 09, down, 10, a little bit up, 11, 12. Guess what, guys? This has been like this, honestly. So from our perspective of looking at this property has been a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Well, and especially when we looked at this at first, Tiff said, let's go and profile number 48. We call this number 48. And when I'm thinking, well, that's not a great property to profile. We barely made any money on that. It's gone up $42,000 in the last 17 years. Is this a good example to be showing? But guys, yes, that's the point.
I said that is my point. Tonight's topic is to show that even in a down market, because this is what is actively on everyone's minds right now, is some markets are slowing. So, and interest rates are going up and we've got inflation to deal with and all these scary, scary things. Does that mean we invest differently? Yeah, it sure does. Does that mean we crunch numbers differently? Yes.
But don't leave yet, guys.
But does it mean that even properties that we buy wrong, does it mean that we're not making any money? And how is that going to impact your life? Okay, guys, I love it. Was it always rented? Yes, it was.
Yes, and that was the beauty of having it in a great location, is that it always was rented. Absolutely. In fact, I don't think we've had, in the 17 years we've owned it, maybe we've had 8 months of vacancy.
Oh, I wouldn't say so.
1 month every 2 years. Maybe not even quite that much.
Because it doesn't turn out.
Our last tenant was here
People stayed for 4 years. That people stay a long time too. I would say maybe 3 or 4 months out of 17 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, super great.
So now, how does this even get better? Melanie asked a really good question back here. She said, did you refinance it when it was worth more? And what's the lowest value it had? Interesting questions. So we did refinance it. when things were going well. And that's our next slide that we're going to show you here, guys, is when the market value in 2008, it was worth 200,000. We refinanced it to 80% of that. At that time, our $100,000 mortgage was down to 95, and the new mortgage was 160, 80% of 200,000. So we pulled out of it $65,000. Now, what did we do?
Okay, just wait though. Okay, yeah, we bought the next one.
No, we can't see
Oh,
that.
oh.
So we'll just have to,
Sorry.
yeah. We'll just take that off so we can see it.
Oh, I see, sorry. Right there, yeah.
Okay. So what we did is we used the 65,000, guys, this 65,000, and we bought another property.
Okay, so Grant, there you go. You're like, okay, so the cash flow wasn't great all these years, and we didn't go up very much money, but were you able to use it as a tool in your toolbox? Yes. Melanie, yes. So here's the thing though, that I want to point out before we move on. So when we refinanced it, so when we bought it, we were making about $100 a month. The market went up, rents went up. We started making like $350, something like that. Like now this is working. Our mortgage is still here. Our rents have gone up. Okay, now we're actually cash flowing. This is what, the dream is, right? And then the market fell. Not only did the price go down, but rents went down, and rents went down by a couple $100. So now we're back to, between a refinance and rents going down, we're back to a break-even property. So here's one point for you, is when you are looking at refinancing, do make sure that you're still going to cash flow, okay? Don't take out so much money that you're not going to cash flow at your new numbers. When you refinance and your mortgage goes higher, make sure that that property still cash flows. It's so important. You're going to see why in a minute. But I hate it when people will refinance and say, that's okay, the other one will pay the cash flow on this one. And no, just still make sure that you're cash flowing, okay? So yeah.
Here we go.
That's the $100 a month. That's
yeah.
Also why the $100 a month over the last 17 years evened out, was because we did refinance, and so our mortgage went up.
Okay, guys. So here's a point that we have to make regarding this, is that if we hadn't bought the first property, we could not have bought this next property. Okay, so because we bought the first one, that gave us the money to buy the next one. So we put 10 grand in, it was worth 200 grand, we refinance, and we have the down payment to buy our next property. Now, look at this, guys, what the next property did. Over the 14 years that we've had it since then, okay, it has increased by $150,000. The mortgage of that second mortgage has been paid down $85,000. And we've received net cash flow on that property of $42,000. So we've had a total gain of the second property that we could only have bought because of the proceeds of the first one of $277,000.
Okay, so guys, now is our break even not a great property that we probably shouldn't have bought? Technically, when we think about it, we're like, oh, I don't know, did that work out so well? When we look at the numbers and we crunch them, take the emotion out and all the ups and someone said, what a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. So being in the trenches with it all these years, yeah, when we look at it and go like, has it been worth it? Like, seriously, has that all been worth it? Okay, now we're starting to see, wait a second, we made 127 grand on the last one. We made 277 out of that.
Good for you.
Right? Out of that. So now does it start looking, heck yeah, right guys? Heck yeah. Yes. And does it help us to go through these numbers every once in a while? Even just every year with your mortgage statement, how much mortgage pay down did I get? Because we look at, I have a cousin right now who's wanting to sell her condo that she's got. And she's like, oh, it's break even. It's not, working out, blah, blah, blah. Not making me money, blah, blah, blah. It's such a pain. I'm like, send me a picture of your mortgage statement, your latest mortgage statement. So she sends it to me. And I said, okay, so you're making $600 a month just in pay down. And she goes, LOL, prima, because she's Latin. And she's like, oh, prima, you're crazy. You think it's paying me anything? It is not paying me a thing. And I said, look again. Look at your mortgage statement. It is paying you. You're not getting the money right now, but you are banking it every single month. So sometimes it's good for us mentally to just go through that. We had, when we used to do one-on-one coaching instead of group coaching, we had some clients and we said to them, they were going to sell their 6 properties. And we said to them, go get your mortgage statements right now. And they went and got them.
Yeah.
And we had them add up their mortgage pay down, which came to $59,000 a year. And we said, take that number and put it on your fridge, because every dinner that's interrupted, every
Because you don't
phone
see
call
that
that
money,
you
right?
don't
You don't
see it.
see what your tenants are, the wealth they're creating for you, because it's all happening at the bank, right? You put the rent in and the mortgage payment comes out. You don't ever put that money in your pocket until you either refinance or sell that property. And so it's money that you don't see, but it is accumulating for you.
Bank account. It's forcing you to save. It's forcing you not to go to Disneyland on that money and have that actually catch up with you later.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big number, guys. And so let's then look at our total long-term, 17 years for the first property, 14 years for the second property. They've both gone in value. If we add these things together, they've increased in value by 192,000. And hey, there's some markets out there, guys, that it'll increase 400,000 or 500,000 in the last year. Yeah. These things happen all across the country, but this is what's happened in a relatively flat, up and down type
in one
market.
of the worst markets that you could possibly buy in this time period. Okay, this is the result of it.
And mortgage paydown of both mortgages, 75 and 85, is 160,000. And the net cash flow between both properties, another 50-some thousand dollars for over $400,000 gain. And guys, do you remember what our initial amount of money that we put into this deal to get it going was? The initial amount was $10,000. And so really, at the end of the day, our $10,000 turned into $404,000. And the beauty of this, guys, is we still have these properties. What is left of the mortgages is still being paid down. And the rents are still now going up. And the values are actually, Edmonton's kind of in a spot where we haven't been in a long time.
We've been waiting.
The market is going to increase, in our opinion, substantially more in the coming months and years. So when we look at where we've come over the last 17 years in just this one example of this one property that we bought and what it enabled us to then do, it's a total game changer. It was a total game changer for us to get us going, to get us have some experience, to see the power of refinancing, to see the power of mortgage paydown. All of these things, guys, we cannot emphasize enough that this is a long-term type of business. It's not a get-rich scheme. But now picture that $404,000, and now you did that 5 times. You did that 10 times. You did that 20 times. What kind of returns are you then going to see? This is buying one property that has not performed extremely well compared to what all of you are seeing in the country right now. But we still had ridiculous returns.
Okay, so the reason this is a topic, guys, is because it's emotional, okay? Sometimes it sucks to invest in real estate. Sometimes it's hard. And like Grant mentioned, I saw your comment, Grant. You said, sometimes we've been working our tails off because these guys are building 60 townhomes, I think it is. And, you're busy and you think, what the heck are we doing this for? But it's time in the market. And you've had a crazy, benefit of rising rents and a rising market where you are. That's great. That will stop, guys. One day that will stop. Any market that we're in, it's going to stop at some point. But does that mean that, it was a total waste? And what you have to look at is the long term. We're not in this short term, guys. If you're in this short term, if we had to have sold this property at any time after 2008, we would have had a loss on this property and we would have said real estate sucks.
Yep.
The only reason why it works is when you're in a long time, okay? So if we had bought better, or if the market had done better, or if all these things, could we have done even better? Yes. Could we have made money if we sold in 2011 or whatever? Sure, if we were in a different spot, different place. But we weren't. We were here with this property as it sat. We would have lost money.
So a really good question, Julie. Don't you pay interest and have to make payments back on that drawn amount? So the refinance where we ended up in this case getting a new mortgage. So our original one was at like $95,000. We got a new mortgage at the time, and you know what's interesting, guys, is I actually looked at the interest rate that we refinanced in 2008, and it was 6.7%.
Ah, look at that.
6.7% we refinanced, but we pulled that $95,000 out, or $65,000 out and bought another property. But here's the key, is that the rents that we were collecting still covered the higher mortgage payment. And so because of that, Julie, yes, we still had to pay a higher amount back, but that's coming out of the rent. The tenants are the ones paying that. It's not coming out of our pocket. And that's one thing we have to be careful of. If we do refinance to a higher amount, guys, and maybe we're doing a BRRRR, maybe we're doing some kind of method where we're counting on refinancing, having a higher mortgage, we're going to have higher payments for that. We want to make sure that our rents will still cover those higher payments. But ultimately, it's the tenant that is paying that down for us.
So a couple more things on this. And so he did mention that we were able to refinance, I think, for more than the $65,000 we needed for the next house. Let me just tell you guys, for those of you that know our story about a kid that we raised until he was 9 when his parents came back into his life and wanted him back, this is the money that we were able to use to be able to fight that and say, no, he needs to stay with his parents. So, as much as like, oh yeah, okay, the numbers work out awesome. Also, it buys you stuff that is so important, the real important stuff in life, for sure. Julie, that's also on that note of cash flow. That's also why you would make sure that you cash flow, that your numbers work out. And that's also why our cash flow never really went up, because as soon as the cash flow went up and rents were up, we also then refinanced. So we lost that gain. So anyways, okay, so.
So after everything we've shown you, okay, we started off with a little bit of a tour showing you this ultra high-end fancy rental property that we have. And you saw the wonderful lights that we put in and the beautiful cabinets that are in the kitchen. And we told you at the beginning that we bought it for 108, and 17 years later, it's worth 150. When you look at it that way, guys, it's like, why did we have this property? Why have we put all that work and time and effort? All the leases that had to be signed, all the checks that had to be deposited, all the mortgage payments that we had to reconcile, all the work that goes along with keeping an investment property for years and years and years. It doesn't seem off the top to be worth it. But when we go back and really look at the returns that we received because we bought this first property. And so there's a point, guys, that I want to really make here, is that a lot of investors hold off on buying something, their first property, because they want it to be an absolute slam dunk winner.
Yeah.
And what happens is they never end up buying a property.
Analysis paralysis.
Exactly. Really. They get stuck in,
yeah.
Oh, well, I saw so-and-so bought one for this price and it doubled in the next year. And then they were able to do this. And I'm wanting to find something that's just going to be a total home run. It's rare that your first property, your second property, your fifth property is going to be a total home run. But what's the point? If we hadn't bought that first property, we couldn't buy the second one. So the point is, guys, is that we have to just get in there. We just have to buy something, even if it's a property that cash flows $100 or $200 a month, even if it's a property that, is not fancy or in a great area, even if it's a property that might
get you in the door.
It gets yourself in the door.
So, and I'll just tell you a story too about, we bought 40 units. Okay. We assigned out most of those, but we kept 7 or 10 units in a complex. Took our numbers at the time. I don't know what we would have been at. I wasn't going to include this in the presentation tonight, so I didn't think this through, but I think we were maybe at like 10 or 11 properties. And then we bought those additional 10. So now we're at 20 properties, let's say. Now, if you're going to look at someone and think about giving them joint venture money, okay, and you're looking around a room, Are you going to give it to the person who has 3 properties under their belt? Or are you going to give it to someone who has 20 properties under the belt? So what that did for us was it raised our credibility super fast. And we went way too fast. And there was a few things that raised our credibility really fast because we moved really quick, too quick. But that was one of them, was we needed to have numbers under our belt. We need to be able to put on our rent roll sheet that we showed to potential partners that we had more than 3 properties on it that were paying us. And so that's part of the point too, is it might not be the perfect property, but if it's okay,
Get yourself in the door.
Getting you in that door, maybe that's all you can do. Maybe you're waiting for the perfect one that's never going to come because you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So either get yourself a joint venture partner that can, or just get in and start working with what you have.
And I know that I hear all the time is people just starting out are looking at properties that are 500,000 to $1 million. Maybe they even start looking at multiplexes or apartment buildings and $2 to $5 million and more. And guys, the example we just showed you, we bought for $108,000. Okay. I want that to just sink in for a second, because there are properties out there right now that you can buy for $100,000. Maybe you have to look in a different market. Maybe you have to just slow down your expectations on, buying your first property being an absolute beautiful renovated burr.
You're gonna have
Maybe
to put more
it just
work
needs
in
to
at
be
first,
something
for
small, because what you get is when you buy that first property, you get the experience of going through the purchase, going through negotiations, dealing with a realtor, dealing with the sellers, dealing with your conditions, dealing with your mortgage broker, getting the financing, going through the closing process, putting together the lease, advertising the property, getting your tenants, dealing with repairs and maintenance. These are all things along the way that
education.
Exactly. Get out there, get started with something simple and small and cheap, so that even if you do mess it up, it's not going to be a life-changing mess up. Okay. Right. So that's my advice to you guys today.
Okay. This is very exciting to me, Sean. Very exciting to me. It sounds like a collaboration with some amazing people. Okay. So we didn't even tell them the best part yet. Okay. So guys, the numbers part, we haven't even told you the very best part. So we put in 10K, right? To buy this place.
That's right.
We put in 10K.
Let's go back to that 10K.
Oh, no collab. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the numbers a little bit. If we're looking at, can we do this?
I don't know how to go back. So.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess. So if we're looking at the numbers, guess what? Who put in the 10K? Do you think it came from us? Come on, guys. Come on, Igniteds. You know the answer.
For those of you that know our story, we put in virtually zero of our own money. It wasn't
ours. There we go. A Facebook user. That's all we got. Facebook user. It wasn't our money.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, how does that all work out? Imagine all of this return, and it's not even our own money.
Yeah.
Now what's our return?
It was actually our first experience with private lending. We had somebody lend us. We were paying them an interest rate. And again, guys, remember that the tenants were paying the interest, and they were paying our second mortgage as well. It all fit in under the expenses there, under the rent, so that we were still cash flowing. So this was our first private lending experience. And when we 3 years later refinanced, we paid off that 10 grand as well, or whatever it was. But the point is, guys, is that the returns in this example were absolutely infinite, because we didn't have any of our own money in. We did have our time, we did have our energy, we did have all the work that went along with it. But at the end of the day, we haven't done hardly anything as far as renovations. We haven't even changed the kitchen since we bought it in 2005. So
I'm pretty sure I even offered to do it for our last tenant, which was 4 years ago. And she too said, no, I like it. It's all good. So yeah. So guys, all of this is, hopefully you can hear us loud and clear, is to say, markets change, they go up and down. We make mistakes. We do some things right and some things wrong. But at the end of the day, is real estate extremely forgiving. It really is, and it becomes more and more forgiving when we are in it for longer term.
Yeah.
So buy smart, but do buy. Okay.
Yeah.
Get in. Don't sit too long on your hands thinking, I need it to be perfect, because it's not going to be. Even if you buy the perfect property, it's not
Don't
going to be
wait to
perfect.
buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. We've all heard that a million times, but it's so true. Just get out there, get started. If you need to, get started with something really, really simple and small.
Yeah.
That's our point today.
For sure. All right. So guys, that is Tuesday training for today. Field trip, fun day, I think. Shake it up a little bit. So
good job, Chico. He didn't make very much noise. Good boy.
He's been a little devil today. Anyways, okay, guys. So yeah, we're going to meet all of our Igniteds over for our laser session in 8 minutes. And for the rest of you guys, we will see you next week for Tuesday training. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your comments and your energy and your heck yeahs and your rah-rahs and your woot-woots and all that kind of stuff, because it does honestly energize us and drive us, and it keeps us rolling. So thanks, guys, and let's keep rolling. Keep on buying. Get out there, guys. Cheers.
See you next week.